Time for another book review, and this is a Korean book, but this is a very famous Buddhist kind of a. It's not a sutra, but it is kind of a central text in terms of studying the mind and the Korean Buddhism, I guess. And this book, the contents of this book actually happen to be available for free in UCLA Center of Buddhist Studies. I will link to this in the comments and the description. So the name of this book is 수심결, and 수심결 means, based on the English translation, Treatise on the complete and sudden attainment of Buddhahood. And what that means is, let me explain. So, because that's the primary topic of this book. As Buddhists, the thing that we seek to attain is enlightenment. Enlightenment seems to be this mysterious thing where it's once you have it, it's like the elixir to the soul, and all your life problems are solved, and you immediately ascend into some kind of a demigod, and you can be whatever you want to be, and so on. But because of this kind of a mysterious nature, we have this idea that attaining it must be very, very difficult. Attaining it must be after a lifetime's worth of solitary monastic life and things like that. Does it have to be like that? And so the two core questions are, what is enlightenment? And number two, how do we get to it, right? So to explain this, you need a little bit of a history of Buddhism. After Buddha's passing, right? When Buddha was alive, this wasn't really a problem, because all you had to do was just kind of follow Buddha, and when you have questions about awakening, you just ask the Buddha, and then he gives you a pretty good answer suited to your level, and then boom, you awaken. There's so many of the sutras that explain situations like this, right? But now Buddha had passed, and after his death, people started wondering, what do we do now? So in terms of the core practices, in terms of the things that you have to do, some of these are timeless, right? Don't be violent. Don't punch other people. Don't take other people's stuff. Don't be intoxicated. Don't lie and slander. These things are still applicable to this time. But there were some things that were not around in Buddha's time, but is available now. So for example, what did Buddha say about cell phones? Did Buddha say, don't be too much on your cell phone? No, because the concept of a cell phone didn't even exist in Buddha's time, right? So what do we do with the things that Buddha didn't necessarily say, simply because it just wasn't there at the time? Because of this, two branches of thought came apart. One is like we have to go the most traditional way, because anything else is just like, it's just make-believe to make your life more convenient. No, that's not what the Buddha taught. What the Buddha taught is you have to follow the Buddha's, like, specifically what he did, the things that he said. You have to live that life and nothing else. So that's the kind of the more conservative approach to Buddhism, right? Which is nowadays practiced as Theravada Buddhism. So in Theravada Buddhism, which is largely practiced in Thailand and Cambodia and some parts of Vietnam and Burma and things like that, that is basically incorporates a lot of studying of the sutras in its original form. And how the Quran is not really like translated, or if it is translated, it's not legitimate. It's sort of like that in the Theravada tradition as well. So as much as possible, you study the sutras in its original languages, and you try to memorize it, and you try to live with it. And then, on the second hand, the other reaction that came to be was like, wait, hold on. But Buddha, didn't he specifically say, don't be obsessed with the things that I say? Didn't he specifically say, don't get attached to words, don't get attached to ideas? No. So the thing is, yes, when Buddha really, what the wisdom that he gave was, don't be so attached so you lose flexibility. You have to be able to adapt with the times. Therefore, we have to be evaluating while keeping the core principle in mind. What do we have to do in this ever-changing environment? And that is basically the reaction to the conservative Theravada Buddhism. And although it's not meant to be this binary, because of the historical context, it became sort of this binary, and it eventually evolved into Mahayana Buddhism, which is basically the East Asian Buddhism and the Northern Asian Buddhism that also I participate in. And now, then you have this branch, a specific sub-branch of Mahayana Buddhism called Zen Buddhism, right? So Zen is really East Asian, and China, Korea, and Japan. But what Zen is this. Both branches of Buddhism that we discussed so far, Theravada Buddhism and Mahayana Buddhism, both still require studying, right? What did the Buddha say? And what are the principles that we should live our life by? Which means it's really bound to words and characters and reading. But given the times of 2,000 years ago, 1,000 years ago, knowledge wasn't this thing that was freely available to everyone, right? So Buddhism largely became a kind of a noble kind of a thing. It became a very aristocratic kind of a thing. It became a very bourgeoisie kind of a thing. Although it didn't mean to be that way, because you had to study it somehow, you needed access to the idea of reading itself. So that means Buddhists kind of became elitists, and monks sort of became like really high figures in society and such. And so this means it didn't really touch the lives of the ordinary people, because majority of the people are ordinary and not like held in high esteem and things like that, right? So why Zen came along is no. Buddhism, what the Buddha taught, it's not this crazy knowledge-based thing that you have to study. It's this one thing that, wait, there's no reason to suffer. If you can just get that, you don't need any of the text. You don't need any of the, practices. All you have to do is just realize for yourself what Buddhahood is, what awakening is. And that is not that hard, right? And so Zen Buddhism is like a reaction to the cultural and socio-economic kind of a reality of Buddhism at the time. So Zen Buddhism focuses less on text. We don't really care about what the scriptures say. We don't really care about it's important when once you awaken it gives you more like a depth to your experience. It's like reading children's book and then watching like the movie adaptation of it, where it's like more fleshed in color and like, whoa, like the CG effects are incredible and things like that, right? But the story itself is the same, right? So what's more important is you get the awakening, and the rest is just kind of like auxiliary. So even in this Zen tradition of awaken, then this also gives birth to a different kind of argument, schools of thought. And that's sort of the most interesting thing about studying Buddhism. Regardless of how revolutionary some idea is, there's always going to be some different schools of thoughts around it. But hey, that's literally everything, right? And as Buddhists, we become wise enough to navigate those without frustration. But anyway, the core of this treatise on the complete and sudden attainment of Buddhahood is, okay, after we get the awakening, are we done? Or, also, do we work for our awakening and then arrive at it? So this awakening thing, if it's this like trophy at the end, is there some kind of a measure we can have to measure our progress and to see how close we are at it. So the schools of thought were, number one, yes, you dedicate your life to peace and you understand and you meditate to calm your mind. And then in that complete stillness and peace, you come to this, this feeling. This feeling is always present underneath as a base layer. And all the things that I see, all the things that I get, all the things that I get as a stimulus, as a reaction, that's built on top of this base stillness. Oh, and in this still realm, there's no, okay, I get it. So that's one way of thinking about it, right? You work your way into that stillness to arrive at that, I get it. And then the other one is, other school of thought is, you don't necessarily need to work on it, right? Because that means you need dedicated time. That means you need dedicated space to completely be still and calm your mind. Therefore, if you're at war, that means you can't attain Buddhahood because you don't have peace, that access to that quiet space. But that's not the point of Buddhism, right? The point of Buddhism is that you can be happy anywhere as long as you're alive, in any circumstance. So, the other school of thought is, no, that's not a requirement. All you have to do is just realize, just open your eyes, just get it, right? Just understand that your life is perfectly ripe for happiness as is. There's nothing that you have to do. You don't need to meditate in order to know that, right? So that's the pre-awakening part, but they all have the core same similarity that the awakening is sudden. That that snap moment, it's there. And now, what about after the enlightenment? What about after the awakening? Okay, after the awakening, do you have to continue practicing? Do you have to continue, like being still? Do you have to continue things that remind you of this? Or is the awakening so complete that you don't need to do anything else afterwards? So there's conflicting schools of thought there as well, right? But the author of this, Chinul, who is like the grandfather of Korean Buddhism, is he takes a very conforming approach to all different methodologies. So he analyzes all schools of different thoughts, but ties them in a really neat way and in a way that really makes sense. So the point is, whatever you do, the sudden awakening is the most important part. And in order to awaken that, you just need to be not confused about things. And you know what? If you're the type of person who's naturally introspective, if you're the type of person who likes to see through things, then, you know what? The sudden awakening without any preparation, that can be a good way for you. So, you know what? You can go that route. But not everybody is that inquisitive. Not everybody is that, disciplined in the mind and obsessive with the finding out puzzles. So for those people who are more easily swayed and influenced, you can find the way through meditation. You can get the evidence for the still mind by meditation and engaging in things like that. So, even after the awakening, what can you do? One thing you can do is, your entire life now is on the basis of, hey, I'm already awakened, there's no reason for me to be suffering anymore. Yeah, if you can do that, good. That's nothing bad. But, chances are, suppose I've never had a drink in my life. I did. But I'm 37 right now. So, I didn't know I had an alcoholic tendency. But, at 37 years old, I have my first drink and I'm like, holy crap, what is this? And then I suddenly can get into this like new kind of exposure to a stimulus that I had never known in my life before, right? And because of this, I can lose sight, I can lose touch with my inner, Buddhahood. So in that case, it helps to continue the practice so that you can, work against the new stimuli that are coming into your life. So, that is at the core of this book of the treatise on the complete and sudden attainment of Buddhahood. And this, I think, is a fairly compact kind of a book. It's like many Buddhist books, it's in the form of a question and an answer. So if your questions about Buddhism happen to line up with the questions in the text, then you're gonna have a really great time. And I read this book after sort of my awakening or like attainment of Buddhahood. I experienced it around September up to October of this year. But to be honest, before I got it, these things would sound so silly to me. It's like chasing clouds. It didn't really make sense. But then once I have it, I'm like, yes, I completely get it now. So in a way, it's kind of ironic that once you get it, you don't really need it. But when you don't get it, it's so far away from you. But I guess that's sort of the allure of that complete and sudden attainment of Buddhahood, right? And that's how Korean Buddhism works. And the more I engage in life coaching in general, and the more I engage, talking with my clients and you guys on YouTube, the more I think Korean Buddhism and the spirit of Zen is kind of needed at this point in time, because so many people have this idea that we need to work towards something. So many people think we need to attain something by working really hard at it. And I don't necessarily think that's the case, right? So in that case, I think this is definitely worth a read, especially since it's available for you in PDF format already, thanks to Dr. Robert Buswell of UCLA Center for Buddhist Studies. Okay, so that's my book review for the treatise on the complete and sudden attainment of Buddhahood, and I'll see you in the next video.